Again, this is day 48 of Scripture's pathway to inner healing, moving from cynicism to celebration. The focus of today's meditation is on Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29. God strengthened those who are weak and tired. I invite you at this time to take a few moments to center yourself as we prepare for the meditation for today. Turning life stresses over to God is the theme for today. God strengthens those who are weak and tired. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29. The late Norman Vincent Peale, author of The Power of Positive Thinking, tells of a stressful time when he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. As a young minister, he was called to serve a large church in a university community, one normally served by a more experienced pastor. Many of the people in his congregation were professors at the university as well as leaders of the city. Wanting to justify the confidence of those who gave him such an outstanding opportunity, the young Reverend Peale worked very hard to make each of his sermons extremely intellectual and filled with penetrating insights, and to deliver them with great eloquence. Soon, this pressure became unbearable. He was constantly tired, nervous, and without energy. Sensing he was about to collapse emotionally, Dr. Peale wisely sought help from a professor who had become a good friend. The young pastor, confident in the academic that he had used up all of his emotional reserves and felt he was about to have a nervous breakdown. After listening, the professor made an unusual suggestion. He asked Dr. Peale to lie down on the sofa, close his eyes, and listen while the professor read a passage to him. Dr. Peale was surprised when the man read from Isaiah chapter 40, verses 28 to 31. He gives strength to those who are weak and tired. Those who trust in the Lord for help will find strength renewed. That passage, the professor told Dr. Peale from Isaiah, is a power formula. It urges us to depend on God for strength, to depend on God for energy. More than 4 decades later, Dr. Peale recalled, I continue to follow my friend's advice, and it has never failed me. My life is crowded with activity. From that formula gives me all the strength I need. God strengthens those who are weak and tired, turning life stresses over to God. Take a few moments and allow your spirit to respond to this meditation. Let's pray. Gracious Lord, help us to tap into your power, strength, and energy. Help us to let go and trust you to meet our daily needs. Our affirmations for today are as follows. As I turn to God, things come to me easily and effortlessly. As I turn to God, wisdom comes from my heart. As I turn to God, my life blossoms and blossoms. And the reflection from today also comes from Norman Vincent Peale. There is no problem, difficulty, or defeat that you cannot solve or overcome by faith, positive thinking, and prayer to God. It's been my experience that this act of turning to God and turning things over to God is really not just a day-by-day activity, but it literally is, in my life, a moment-by-moment activity. Because I tend to want to give it to God, then take it back. Give it to God, take it back. Give it to God, take it back. And I want to leave you with a little story that I often tell people when I visit in the hospital about turning things over to God's hand. The stories of a little boy who grew up in a small town, let's say Minnesota. And he went to a neighborhood grocery store that was owned by the person who was working the cashier. And when he got to the counter to check out the food with his dad, the cashier said, "There's a big jar of candy right at the counter, and you put your hand in the jar and grab all the candy, and all the candy you can grab, you can have." And the little boy just looked up at him and stared. And then the owner said it again. "Put your hand in the candy jar, and all the candy you can grab, you can have." And he stared at them. Finally, the owner of the store reached into the candy jar, grabbed a fistful of candy, and the little boy had to cup both of his hands together just to hold all of the candy. When they went outside, the little boy's father said, "Why didn't you grab the candy the first time he told you you could grab it?" And the little boy looked at his father and said, "Because his hands were bigger than my hand." Ah, I want you to take that with you today. God's hands are bigger than our hands. I invite you to turn those difficult areas over in your life over to God today. Put them in God's hand. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the Lord cause God's face to shine upon you, and may the Lord look upon you with favor and grant you peace. Shalom.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Amen. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Man, thank you, Pastor.